Vote counting and sorting have officially begun in Zambia's general election, marking a pivotal moment for the country as citizens choose both a president and parliament. With more than 8 million registered voters, the atmosphere is tense as parties, observers and international monitors watch closely for signs of transparency and calm. President Hakainde Hichilema, seeking a second five-year term, faces a strong challenge from Brian Madubile, a lawyer and former cabinet member under the late President Edgar Lungu. Early tallies may hint at trends, but only official certification will determine the outcome. It is shaping up to be one of Zambia's most unpredictable elections in years. And of course, News Central TV South African correspondent Mkhutche is live in Lusaka and brings us the latest update. Of course, we'll be connecting with Mkhutche in the course of the program. Well, joining me right now to unpack all of this is Aaron. Mngambi is a Zambian political analyst. He joins from the United States. I also have Mkhutche is a geopolitical analyst. He joins from Malawi. Gentlemen, thank you for your time. All right, let me start the conversation with you, Aaron. I mean, with what we have seen so far, with more than 8 million registered voters and heightened security or scrutiny from observers, how confident will you say Zambians are that the vote counting process will be transparent and credible?
Well, it's always been like that in Zambia for the most part. The elections have come and gone since 1991. I mean, since we gained our multi-party participatory democracy. So by and large, most of the elections have been transparent, they've been credible, and they've been very peaceful. And that is largely because of the institutions that we have. They seem to be institutions that are quite firm, but also the citizenry is very awake and alert during elections. Therefore, we've seen transitions from one party to another party and another party. So if there was a change of government this time around, it would not be anything new. It would be just as it happened in 2021, most recently, when the ruling party lost elections to the opposition, which is now the incumbent in the administration.
All right. Before, of course, I bring Wanda into this conversation, let's head straight to our correspondent who is in Zambia, Mkhutche. It's great to have you. Mkhutche, what is the latest right now in Zambia as regards this election?
Good evening, Dapo, and also good evening to our viewers. Absolutely, the mood here in Zambia is something else. The atmosphere, if I can say, is a mix of anticipation and caution, and also optimism. Supporters of various parties are closely watching the process today, the voting, as we wait for the result, hopeful that their candidates will come out on top. But there is also a sense of passions, also underlying tensions also are there as these results are being waited for. But the environment is peaceful, but also there's a sense of importance from Zambians. They want to know who is going to lead them for the next 5 years. President Hakainde Hichilema came to vote today, and his supporters were behind him. The idea about the continuity and stability, emphasizing the achievements that he has done for the past years and also building on that progress. But on the other hand, also Brian Madubile supporters highlighting the need for change and presenting him as a fresh alternative who can bring new energy to the governance. So both sides are actively engaging in social media discussions out. We had conversations with other citizens, and they were telling us that this is important for them because some are looking for change. Some are also saying that President Hakainde Hichilema should carry on with, and they are seeing progress. So there are a lot of mixed signals on the streets, but everyone is confident that the process was peaceful, and also they are waiting for results. But also I had an opportunity opportunity to speak to the SADC observer mission that told me that the elections were credible and accepted by them as the observer mission. So, Dapo, we wait and see the situation, how Zambia is going to move forward when the results come out. We understand that they'll be coming out on a Monday.
All right, but Bongani, great one. But before I let you go, now, as vote counting continues, what should we be watching most closely in the coming hours? Is it the pace of results, the reaction from the main contenders, or the assurances from observers about issues maybe concerning transparency?
Dapo, what we should be watching are the citizens. How are they going to react when the result comes? Because most of the people that were on those queues were the youths. Many of them that I spoke to spoke about change. So if that change doesn't come, how are they going to react? But also among the youths, there are those that are confident about the current government. And they were telling me that 5 years is not much time for a government who took over, a government that was not doing well. We know that President Hakainde Hichilema took over from the late Edgar Lungu, and Zambia had economic challenges, of which some of the citizens are saying they have seen progress. So as we wait, sentiments are different on the streets. Also, like I indicated, that the observers are saying that the elections were peaceful. So we continue to wait. It's a game of waiting from both the candidates. With President Hakainde Hichilema was very confident when he was speaking to the media this afternoon of the progress that he has made and that he wants to continue with that progress. But unfortunately, we couldn't get hold of the main opposition contender, that is Brian, who is of the Tonse Alliance. We couldn't get hold of him. Those that followed him, it took a while to know where he was voting. So there isn't much that we know about him, but we know that he served in the parliament during the time of former President Edgar Lungu. He's also a lawyer. He's coming in, and most of the youths that I spoke to, they really are behind him. So it's a game of waiting. We see when the results come, how the sentiments of the Zambians will be going, which way they'll go.
All right, thank you so much, Bongani Sisiba. It's great, of course, as always, having you, and great work. Thank you. We'll definitely keep tabs. All right, let's bring it back to the studio and my guest. I'm coming straight to you, Wanda. I mean, you did hear some of the things that our correspondent who is on ground did say, part of which he said that some of the residents, particularly young persons, echo change. My question is this. President Hakainde Hichilema is seeking a second term. Now, what advantages does, incumbency give him, for instance, and how might those, be offset by voter dissatisfaction and opposition momentum, given the fact that there are still issues, right? Issues bordering around the economy, around employment, amongst a plethora of other issues too. Do we see an advantage here, for the incumbency?
Yes, President Hakainde Hichilema has a huge advantage. We are looking at how the Zambian economy has performed. Bongani here just said that most people are positive about his presidency in terms of the economy. And from my following of the election and also talking to some people in Zambia, they seem to be positive about it. Of course, recently the copper prices, which is Zambia's main export, we are not all that good, but still the government has performed well. And again, as already said, most of the voters are the young people between the ages of 18 to 35. And the issue of unemployment is also a huge concern. And we have seen in the recent months, President Hichilema trying to appeal to the youth in terms of winning their support. And it seems that has been successful because the general mood in terms of this election is that the government has performed well, and people are ready to give the president 5 more years. But we just have to wait to see on Monday when the electoral results are expected to be coming out.
Okay, because I'm forced to ask, part of what our correspondent did say, echo through our interviews with persons who are resident there, is that five years seems too small to make any form of meaningful or credible impact. Do you think this is really the case? Is 5 years too small for any leader with vision and purpose to be able to make some sort of meaningful impact?
Yes, I would agree. 5 years is not that too long, especially for a leader whom people are positive about. For example, the Zambian case. That's why the General Modi says that the president has performed well in his first term. So let us give him another term. So for those who are saying that 5 years is not enough, I totally agree with them because when we are talking about 2021 in the previous election, the economy of Zambia was not performing well. But now it seems that things have been improving. Maybe one of the major challenges can be about the electricity due to the drought that the country experienced. But I think that was explained well by the government, and people are ready to put that aside and take a risk on the incumbent president to say maybe 5 more years we are going to see a different country.
All right. I would also pose the same question to you, Aaron. Do you think that 5 years is too small for meaningful impact?
Oh, no, not necessarily. I think that if you have a vision and if you have a specific program that you want to implement as the head of state, as president, it's doable to do that specific program within that mandate. Unless whatever you want to achieve has external factors or it's determined by external factors, then that's a whole different conversation. But just to point out a few things here. Number one, the Zambian economy in 2021 was not doing very well because that was against the backdrop of COVID-19. Almost all the countries in the world, they had their GDPs going downwards, and Zambia's GDP was at -2%. So to suggest that the previous administration's macroeconomics were just unstable is not really the entire picture. Yes, there were a lot of mismanagement of resources and the issues of corruption with the previous administration, but the issues of macroeconomics were really by and large determined by external factors, and hence the GDP was going downwards like many other countries in the world. But since then, we've seen the GDP growth under President Hakainde Hichilema growing at 4-5%. We've seen inflation go to single digits at 6.4%. These are really serious achievements that he has done in the first term. The only problem is that there seems to be a disconnect in reality between the macroeconomics indicators that are looking very well on paper and the cost of living for the ordinary Zambians. The people talking about how there's no liquidity in the economy, money is hard to find. People that are talking about the high cost of living. So these are real issues, but yet the macroeconomics indicators look very well. So that's a contradiction that President Hakainde Hichilema has to actually address in the next mandate, if he gets one.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll go on our first break. When we return, we'll expand the conversation to look at the political atmosphere in this particular election, particularly around security and safety of life. Stay with us, we'll be right back. You're still watching Politics HQ, and of course, at this time, we are still, of course, putting on spotlight the Zambian general elections, where, of course, vote counting is already underway. I still have my guests, and let me just quickly come back to you, Wanda, because I just have, just a few minutes more with you. Let's talk about security in this particular election. We know that past elections, for instance, saw killings at rallies, military deployment, at hotspots, described as an increasingly brutal crackdown by some on human rights. Now, compared to what has happened in the past and these elections, what would you say in terms of review?
Yes, in terms of this recent election, we have seen elements of maybe you can say electoral violence. At one time, we heard that the government sent the police at Elale, where the opposition was addressing, and some people were beaten and they were injured. But the incidents have not been to the extent that they can affect the shape or the outcome of the elections. I can say that these things normally do happen in elections, especially in the Southern African countries. For example, here in Malawi, we do have such incidences. So yes, they happened, but they did not happen to an extent that we can call it a worrying situation, that people are going to change their opinion or their minds in terms of who to vote for because of those. So when compared to the past elections, we cannot say that the situation has improved or even gone worse. It's almost the same as we have seen in the past.
Do you think this is also the case, Mr. Aaron?
And not necessarily. I think that the situation now is far much better than the electoral violence that we've seen in the past. I think that the pockets of violence that we have seen during campaigns, initially they were just within the party of the ruling party, the UPND, the United Party for National Development. They had their own intra-party elections, or what you'd call primaries, to elect candidates for MP or councillors, to nominate candidates within the party. And so during that process, there were inner disputes and there saw some violence. But then outside of that, we only saw a handful of incidences where the opposition to the ruling party were targeted by the ruling party cadres, as it were. But this is very minimal. This is at a very smaller scale than we saw in 2021 or in other previous times. So I think by and large, this election has been very, very peaceful. Even though there's been accusations of police harassment and political detainees and things like that. In fact, Amnesty International produced a report, I think about 3 days ago, which was really damning to the ruling party, talking about how the situation is very bad in terms of free press, in terms of political detainees and things like that. But in reality, when you look at that and make a comparison to what's happened in the past, I think that we've done far much better this time around.
All right, gentlemen, I'd like to say a big thank you for your time on the program this evening. Aaron, it's been great having you, Zambia Political Analyst, and Wanda Mkhutche, it's also been great having you, Geopolitical Analyst. Gentlemen, once again, thank you for your time.